Welcome back. As the country marks the killing of the mine workers in Marikana 9 years ago, Union Amcu says a lecture has become a permanent feature of its commemorations. So let's speak a little bit about this matter with Joseph Mathunjwa, the president of the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union. Joseph, always a pleasure speaking to you this evening. I mean, when we're looking at how it's 9 years since the Marikana Massacre, and we were having a conversation earlier on with Advocate Dalimpofu about how there appears to still not be proper justice that's been served to those that lost their loved ones in Marikana. What is your sentiment 9 years on? Have we really truly become all about commemorating and wreath laying and giving a lecture and then we forget about the day?
Thank you and good evening to you and to your viewers and listeners. Yeah, indeed, it is quite sad that even today no justice has been served. I mean, some of the workers who were seriously injured hasn't been paid 9 years down the line. And it shows clearly that the government that purport to be a caring government, we haven't experienced through the workers of Marikana or the victims of the massacre.
So then in this case, Joseph, I must ask, some of these workers that have not been paid, are they Amcu affiliated workers?
Yes, the majority of them, yes, indeed.
All right, then in that case, then, Joseph, I must ask you, as Amcu president, if your members, right, have not been paid, if they have not been compensated, and we're still having the same conversation 9 years on, I have to ask you, as the president of Amcu, what have you been doing about it?
Yeah, I think that is quite an easy question to ask, but we are not a government at the end of the day. Hence, you've been speaking to Comrade Dalimpofu. That's the work that we are doing. We are in contact with the lawyers, all the lawyers that were employed to do this work. So even themselves, they've got limitation because, I mean, they are not the government. They are the lawyers who seek, the truth and to seek justice for our members or the workers in general that happen to be the victim of this Marikana. So that question must go to the government, because this government is not a nationalist party government. It's the government elected by us, of which was seeks to address all the atrocities, all the injustices that was perpetuated by the former government, which was the government of Nationalist Party. It is disappointing. That question, you must throw it right to the doors of the state president.
Yeah, and when it comes to even the accountability aspect of it, I mean, you're saying that you're not a government and all you can do is negotiate, but what capacity, what do you need so that justice, so that compensation may be given to those who lost their lives in Marikana? As you're right, when I was having this conversation with Advocate Dalimpofu, one thing that became clear is that people are even dying of COVID-related illnesses. Some of these workers are no longer alive, right? And they have not been compensated as yet. So what do you need as Amcu to ensure that justice is eventually served?
The only vehicle that we are using is the same platform: commemoration, lecture, to conscientize everyone not to forget, because I think the strategy here is to flush this Marikana massacre out in the mind of many people, to forget about it, and the life goes on as usual. And again, this delay to justice and the compensation, I think it confirms that workers were labeled as criminals before they were massacred. So that's why there is no agency whatsoever. And little that we can do, we are not magistrates, we are not judges. At the end of the day, you follow due processes. If they delay, like for instance, those who were arrested, accused of killing the survivors who were accused as if they were the one that caused the massacre. Every time we go to court, it's postponement. NPA is not ready. Certain offices are not ready. So it's been postponement, of which you could see there is no will in ending this. And this commemoration, it is a commemoration, but remember, we're dealing with people who've got emotion, feelings like any other person. Every time when we talk that there are still outstanding matters after 9 years, it becoming a raw wound to the widows, to the survivors, to those that were seriously injured. We've written twice to the state president requesting him, the last letter that we wrote him towards this commemoration, to say, at least state president, could you please make sure that all the outstanding monies are paid to those that are due? And till today, there's no response, it's just acknowledgement. And furthermore, we did encourage him to say, at least let's come to Marikana as you have promised, come and meet the widows, the victims, the workers, and then we ushered a new dawn in terms of finalizing and closing the chapter and opening a new chapter, but that hasn't sufficed even today. So what can we do at the end of the day? We are not in power, they are in power.
Okay, but then that means that it's completely, it sounds as though, Joseph, this is a completely hopeless and helpless situation. Do you feel ignored by the president? And what would it take? What would it take for the president to actually listen to you and to actually meet the people of Marikana?
I think it will take himself to look at himself and say, I did promise the world. Remember when he made this undertaking, it was during the funeral of Mama Winnie, may her soul rest in peace, where he told the whole world that he will be coming to Marikana. He went, even in one of the universities in Western Cape, he said he will come, and Rhodes University, to be precise, will come to Marikana and apologize. So therefore, I mean, if a man of his stature cannot honor what he said, what one can expect at the end of the day? But we will continue. We will not abandon this struggle. We will continue, because this is just undermining the dignity of the working class in South Africa, of which it needs a serious attention of the working class to say, we are on our own. We need to see to it that the white monopoly capital cannot continue. And I just want to share something very critical to this. In 2019, when we were in a wage negotiations at the gold sector, the same Marikana was in a pipeline by Stillwater with the state, whereby the Stillwater was servicing Inyala and all vehicles that were used exactly as they were used during the Marikana Massacre, which is Lonmin Massacre, which now is Sibanye Massacre. And then we put before the ministers and the government to say, why are the vehicles of the state are serviced by Neil Froneman at Stillwater while you are on strike? Are you preparing another Marikana? Even today, there was no answer. But we averted that one. But you could see clearly that the murdering and the massacring of the workers in Marikana was not a coincidence, was not an incident. It was about economic powers.
Joseph, who is to take accountability for how far this Marikana massacre has gone unanswered, or even not even given the light of day, almost to say? Where does the responsibility lie, and who should take account? Is it the police minister? Is it the president? Who needs to actually meet the people? Who needs to take accountability and responsibility for what happened, so that we know exactly where to place the blame?
The blame must be in the door of the state president, because the workers were not breadwinners, were not massacred by foreign national government. There was no flight coming from US, coming from Italy, landing in Lonmin and killing workers. It was a South African government who massacred the workers. So therefore, the leader of the country should take it, upon himself to see to it, how do we heal the nation? How do we heal the workers? How to heal, all those wounds to those victims, and moving forward. If, they managed to forgive apartheid, the people who were committing atrocities against many of the African people, why they can just come forward and say, we are sorry, this thing, it happened outside, whatever that, or let's say, whatever that they can say before the victims. We are a forgiving nation. Those victims, they might forgive them and move forward. But just to deny and delay, it shows disrespect to the lives of those who pass on and to the widows and the victims of Marikana.
Joseph Mathunjwa, thank you very much for your time this evening. The president of Amcu there, speaking about how 9 years on, it appears as though there seems to be a willingness to help South Africans forget about what happened in Marikana on this day. Well, to the story now.